The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. One Sabbath, when Jesus went to dine at the house of a ruler who belonged to the Pharisees, they were watching him. Now he told a parable to those who were invited. When he marked how they chose the places of honor, saying to them, when you are invited by anyone to a marriage feast, do not sit down in a place of honor, lest a more eminent man than you be invited by him. And he who invited you both will come and say to you, give place to this man. And then you will begin with shame to take the lowest place. But when you are invited, go and sit in the lowest place, so that when your host comes, he may say to you, friend, go up higher. Then you will be honored in the presence of all who sit at table with you. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, and he who humbles himself will be exalted. He said also to the man who had invited him, when you give a dinner or a banquet, do not invite your friends or your brothers or your kinsmen or rich neighbors, lest they also invite you in return, and you be repaid. But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the maimed, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed, because they cannot repay you. You will be repaid at the resurrection of the just. The Gospel of the Lord. Lead questions for today. Question number 1. What is the relationship, if any, between humility and wisdom on the one hand, and between pride and folly on the other? Question 2. Quote, to grow in humility, we need a good dose of self-knowledge. Discuss briefly. Question 3. Describe briefly how you would begin to mentor your child, your staff, your colleague at work, or a fellow church member, how you will begin to mentor them in the Christian virtue of humility. And question 4. In what way can we show that pride, the cardinal sin of pride, is the root of much of our national problems? Those of us who did catechism will learn that pride is the number one cardinal sin, the fundamental sin on which all other sins hang. So how will you show that the same pride that is the cardinal sin of humanity is also the root of much of our national problems? And how can the widespread teaching of the virtue of humility help to transform our country from where we are now for the better? From the sorry state we are now. How can the widespread teaching and mentoring of people in the virtue of humility turn our country around? Yes, Urachi.
Glory to God forevermore.
Amen.
I'd like to attempt question 2.
Yes.
To grow in humility, we need a good dose of self-knowledge. I'll start from the standpoint of pride as against humility in discussing this. The proud actually sees himself as the most important. He sees himself as having control over everything. He does not understand his existence, his being, the source of his being, or his limitations. And he does not understand that whatever he is or has is a privilege. So to be able to grow in humility, we must first understand that we are not our source in ourselves. We are not self-sufficient, so to speak, because the proud man feels I'm self-sufficient. It's all me. The moment we come to that realization that we are not our source, it makes us think and we sit back and we begin to realize that we cannot exert control as we ordinarily would want to exert control over ourselves, over others, and over circumstances. And then the moment we also realize that we don't have it all, we're not perfect, we're imperfect human beings, prone to mistakes.
That is too nice to say now. We are imperfect. We are horrible sinners. That's more true than that we are not perfect. We are not perfect means that we are good and whatever, but that we are just not perfect like God. So say it as it is.
We're horrible sinners that makes mistakes without, a lot of us Christians, without the help of God, will be as horrible as the person smoking and drinking on the streets. The moment we come to that realization, indeed, it will tame us and help us show mercy and compassion to those we see on the streets. And when we realize that we are just stewards of God's graces and God's blessings, we will not handle it as though it is us and us alone.
On Ash Wednesday, the quote, what the minister says to the person that is receiving ash is that, remember, man, that you are dust, and unto dust you shall return. Actually, the root of the word humility is the same root as the word human, and it comes from the Latin humus. Humus means dust. Humus is the root of human and is the root of humility. What do I say it is? Dust. So on Ash Wednesday, we are just being reminded of what we should know. Remember, man, that you are dust, and unto dust you shall return. But if you have no self-knowledge, you will think you are much more. If you have no self-knowledge, you see, we are told of some astronauts who went to outer space. And when from outer space he saw the earth, and the earth was one dot. Dr. Usman, you know about the story. He saw the earth as one dot, just a dot, the entire earth that Ukraine and Russia are fighting, and Palestine and Israel are fighting, and they are fighting in the Congo, and they are fighting in Nigeria, that it is one dot. He came back to earth humbled. That realization that all this one we are doing all over the place, we are just one dot in the scheme of things. One dot. I'm saying the whole earth, not to talk of the individual. If the whole earth is one dot, what is a human being?
Nothing.
We don't have something to describe it. So, that we are one dot, and that when he came back, he bowed his head. He knew that all our boasting around, all these ones we claim, see, me, I will deal with you. You are dust, my friend. So if we recognize, if we have self-knowledge, if we know the truth of who we are, another thing, somebody says that humility is about truth. It's about knowing the truth of who you are. Pride is actually living a false life. Because when we are proud, what it shows is that we don't really know the truth of our earthiness, of our smallness. So, if we know who we are, that's what she's saying, we will behave better. Give her a round of applause. Yes, Tony. This bloody humuses. Humuses.
May the name of the Lord be praised both now and forever.
Amen.
Father, permit me to attempt question 1.
Yes.
And if possible,
A little louder.
And if possible, question 3. Let me begin from 1. Humility and wisdom on one hand in the Christian teaching or in the church's teaching, it says that humility is the mother of all virtues. That humility is the mother of all the whole virtues, in the sense that it is in humility
That we
Christ
cultivate the other.
habits of following Christ, because
Okay.
it's in humility that Christ himself brought us salvation. Because at the garden in Gethsemane, he said, after praying for the cup to pass him by, he now humbled himself, knowing that everything is at the instance and at the will of the Father, even though he is a son. He said, not as I want, but as let your will be done.
Okay.
So humility is wisdom, in the sense that once we start with humility, we see ourselves small.
I like the way he has put it. So humility is wisdom. Not just that humility and wisdom are linked, but that humility is wisdom. If we are humble, we are wise. To be humble is to be wise.
So we start learning everything about Christ. And then in humility, since we know the truth, we'll strive to. And because we have already come to know the truth, we live it out.
Because humility helps us to recognize the truth of who we are and now help us to live it out. And then you will discover that when we are humble, it's easier also to be generous. Right? It's easier to be generous to others because we know that all we are and all we have are gifts. Yes.
Then on the other hand, pride is also a cardinal sin. It was pride that brought the devil down.
Don't they say pride
Lucifer.
goes before the fall?
So it is pride that brought Lucifer down, because pride can also be used as arrogance. And once you are arrogant, you are proud, it's folly, because you will not learn anything. You believe that there is nothing that you can learn. You become unteachable since you are pride.
Okay, the proud person becomes unteachable. Then also incorrigible, isn't it? The proud person is not easy to correct him or her. It's not easy to teach him or her. It's not easy for him to learn anything, the proud person.
Then you live in folly, not even realizing that you are the one who is the fool. You believe that other people are ignorant and are fools, whereas in actual sense,
You are the one.
yes.
Okay. Question?
3. How I'll begin to mentor my child or my children or staff and colleague at work and fellow Christians about the Christian virtue of humility is just like
Continue.
what it is from what we have said in question 1 about humility, that the Christian teaching of humility is just like when Christ came. The standard of the world is to tell people, go for it, be the greatest, be the head and not the tail, be the champion, be the celebrity, be the best among the best, and all of that. But Jesus comes, and his humility is like, in humility, he taught us a different thing, because the Christian teaching and message is not what the world teaches. It teaches us humility, that if you want to be the first, you'll be like a servant of all, and you serve others, because it is in service to others that will find meaning, that will find fulfillment, not raising ourselves up. That is why.
And this one you are talking now, but I'm saying how you would mentor.
Yes.
Is it only talk you will talk to them?
No, Father.
Let somebody help Tony.
No,
Let
Father.
somebody help Tony. Yes, Val.
Our help is in the name of the Lord.
Who made the heaven and earth.
Father, may I assist in question number 3?
Okay.
Proverbs 22 verse 6 says, train up your child in the way
He should go.
he should go, and when he grows up, he will never depart from it.
Train up your child in the way he should go. And when he grows up, he will not depart from it.
Yes, Father. And the way to go is in the word of God, which is God's wisdom and humility. The Lord himself demonstrated this humility when he came down to serve and then bring out salvation. So, in addition, how we now mentor the child is how we treat, for example, how I'll treat my domestic staff and the people working with me. Then treat them as human beings and make the children know that those people have the same, we're all created equally. It's just the grace of God that they are privileged, and make sure that they respect them and give them their own due. Then along the line too, when you go into school, you make sure that they don't look down on anybody, probably because of the way the person dressed or the status in life.
Now, what Val is saying, I hope you know that the great disrespect that a lot of our young people have for the poor, it comes from home. The way they grow up seeing their parents treat domestic staff. From age 1, 2, 3, the way they see, the relationship they see between their parents and the staff around, the security, the cook, whatever, and all the other poor people around, that is what they carry to adulthood. And they do it more than their parents have done it. Right? So, in this society, this is a thoroughly divided society. I have constantly complained about the apartheid. After we went to help South Africa to end apartheid in South Africa. We have instituted apartheid informally here. It is not in the law as it was in apartheid in South Africa. But it's here, the practice of many people, whereby you bring your brother's child from the village. I'm not even talking of a far distant person, and make your brother's child to serve your own children. You bring a poor girl from the village and treat her like a slave in your house. The madams here, true or false? They are not saying it loud, but I could hear true. Now, when the children are growing up and they are seeing how you are treating the nanny, how you are treating the servant, how you are treating the security, when they are growing up, they have a wrong impression of who they are. So they don't get to know the truth of who they are, that they are simply humus, dirt, dust. They don't get to recognize that they are equally dust with the child of the security guard. Do you understand? They don't get to know that. So they think they are some super beings, whereas they are there because of fortune. You remember what I said about fortune last Sunday? The wind of fortune has blown towards them in a manner that it has not blown towards the other people. That's the only difference. They don't have two heads and those ones have one. Just that they are fortunate. But they don't see it as fortunate. Actually, what we are seeing today in our society among young people, what we call the entitlement mentality. I hope you know that it is parents that planted it. Yesterday, I was watching a commissioner from Delta State talking about trying to fight drugs among secondary school students in Delta State. How many of you watched that program on Arise? The issue of drugs, and he says 25% of the people are on drugs. Young people are on drugs, and what they are trying to do. And he says he is pleading with parents. He said, can you imagine that a successful parent gives 100, 200,000 naira to a secondary school child to go to school as pocket money? A boarding school where you have paid for feeding, you have paid for everything. It's in the dormitory. The school is feeding the child. But the child has won 200,000 as pocket money. Inya, are you salivating? Can you imagine? That is what many people are not earning. The majority of Nigerians don't earn that in the month, right? Yeah. A successful parent is giving that to the child. And he says you are destroying your child. And your child will now help to destroy other children, because those are the people who can afford the drugs, and they don't want to take the drugs alone, the colos. They now get other young people to join them in coloing or coloing. How do you give 100,000 to a secondary school child as pocket money in a country where the minimum wage is what? So you can see that the successful people in this country are destroying. That's why they say, look, who knows about there's an article that has been going out about the Italian who did a work on the laws of stupidity. The 5 laws of stupidity. One of them is that you give a stupid person money, you give a stupid person money, he will destroy himself and destroy others. Then if you give a stupid person power, he will destroy the nation. And that is what is happening in Nigeria. And that there are a lot more stupid people than we. There are a lot more stupid. Look around you. Just look around you. Look around you. Val is doing it. Everybody look around you. There are a lot more stupid people around you than you imagine, and you may be one of them. And when you have a large population of stupid people, you end up with a country like this. He says, let's not take it for granted. Let's not take it for granted. Stupidity is more rampant than you think. Stupidity is more prevalent, it's more rampant than you think. And by their fruits we shall know them. By seeing what is happening out, then we know that the population of stupid people here is a lot. So, in raising your children, raise your children to be wise. And one of the ways of raising children to be wise is allowing them to go through the normal difficulties people do have. I've been preaching that here, isn't it? You protect your children from any pain, that child will be an idiot. Because it is through a bit of suffering, age-appropriate suffering, age-appropriate pain. That's how we become wise, you know. So you say, no, I suffered. When I was growing up, I suffered. I will not allow my child to suffer. Your child will be an idiot. I have constantly said this, that it is the trajectory of pain, with the trajectory of pain that you develop resilience, that you become wise. But when you are protected from any pain, then you will grow as an idiot, and you will increase the pool of stupidity in our country. This is where we are, and as we are talking about humility, as we are talking about wisdom, that it is clearly, let your children expose some of the challenges of the day. Don't protect your children. Oh, it is very, very unsafe everywhere. The world is unsafe. Actually, historians say that this is one of the safest times in human history. Believe it or not. The world has always been an unsafe place. Is it the time of Otumakere that is safer? That is safer than here? You know the time of Otumakere? When they used to come and raid, slave raiders, that they come to a village and raid the young men and young women and raid them and take them as slaves. Is that the safer time? So, the world has always been an unsafe place. And yet, people pass through, navigate through that unsafe world to become wise. Don't protect your children completely and not allow your children to experience the reality, the truth of life. Don't put your children in a bubble where they don't know the challenges of life, because you will not always be there. Will you be there for your child when your child is 70, 80 years old? No. Allow your child to learn to navigate the challenges of life, and then you will be building a better future, not only for yourself, but for the entire society. Give me a round of applause. Yes, Solomon.
Glory to Jesus.
Honor to Mary.
Let me give my understanding to question number 4. I will take an excerpt from the first reading, Sirach 3. We listen attentively while the first reading was being read. When the reading says or said that attentive ear is a wise man's desire.
The attentive ear is a wise man. Every wise person desires to have an attentive ear. Yes.
And the affliction of the proud has no healing.
No limit.
No healing.
No healing.
Yes, that's the first reading.
Wow. The sickness of the proud, there's no medicine for it.
Yes, no healing. And so that can explain clearly why we are in this mess we're in Nigeria. Those who are saddled or those who are at the helm of affair do not listen to the plight of Nigerians who are groaning, who are in pain. So, of course, that now becomes a problem. And so we see that the reading talks about humility and greatness. And so if we're in position of authority, those who are our leaders at the various level, all strata, if we are humble enough to know that being there is not by our own...
and it's not for ourselves.
Yes, it's not for ourselves. It is for the common good. That will go a long way to help Nigerians. So we see the link between pride and humility. That if we are humble enough to admit that leadership is about sacrifice, about service for the common good, then of course it will be good for us in Nigeria. That's much I can say. And of course, tied to that is the fact that the truth is that as a leader, there is some level of compassion that is required to execute.
If you are humble as a leader, you will take service will be your number one disposition towards service. But if you are not humble, then you ride through as we are experiencing today. Give him a round of applause. From our first reading in the gospel, we have 2 clear lessons. Can you read? 1. The greater you are, the more you should behave humbly. 2. Invite the crippled, the lame, the blind to your party, and you will be rewarded richly. That's the core message of today. Paul writes in Philippians chapter 2, verse 6 to 11. Read. His state was divine, yet he did not cling to his equality with God, but emptied himself to assume the condition of a slave and became as men are, and being as all men are, he was humbler yet, even to accepting death on the cross. But God raised him high and gave him a name which is above all names, so that all beings in the heavens and on earth and in the underworld should bend the knee at the name of Jesus, and that every tongue should acclaim Jesus Christ as Lord to the glory of the Father. Jesus Christ was born in a lowly manger and raised in little Nazareth. It was deliberate. God had a design. If I were God, I would send my son to the biggest city in the world at the time. But to show us that his ways are not our ways, as Isaiah says, he was born in a manger where sheep are kept, not in the palace of the king, in little village of Nazareth. Surrounded himself with poor fishermen as disciples, had tax collectors and prostitutes among his followers, fraternized with the poor and despised people, had nowhere to lay his head, rejected the devil's temptation to show power and prestige, washed the feet of his disciples, submitted himself to a shameful death on the cross. Jesus identified himself so closely with the suffering poor that he declared in the story of the Last Judgment that what we do to the hungry, the naked, the stranger, the sick, the prisoner, we do to him. As you did it to the least of my brethren, you did it to me. Like the prophets of old, Jesus comforts the afflicted and afflicts the comfortable. Can we say that together? Jesus comforts and afflicts the comfortable. So those who are in trouble, afflicted, and they go to Jesus, they find comfort. But those who are too comfortable, when they go to Jesus, they are challenged. This is what is known as Jesus' preferential option for the poor. Jesus calls all those who have been beaten by the travails of life to come to him. Come unto me, all you who labor and are overburdened, and I will give you rest. Yes, all who have labored and are burdened by the victim, all the victims of killer bandits and unknown gunmen, the widespread ethnic and religious bigotry in our land, dehumanizing poverty all over the place, unemployment, disease and bereavement, loneliness and abandonment. Jesus says, come unto me and I will give you rest. All who are suffering childlessness, and all those who are suffering children with many health challenges, physical and psychological, physical and mental handicap, he says they should come to him to find their rest. All who are suffering on account of widespread injustice and falsehood in our land, he declares that he is meek and humble on heart. Come unto me, all you who labor and are overburdened, and I will give you rest. Why do you suffer in vain? Why do you cry in vain when I am there? And I will give you. Shoulder my yoke and learn from me, that I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my heart is light. Yes, in today's Nigeria, Jesus' loving attention will go to. Whereas human beings, our attention normally will go to the rich and the powerful and the successful and the celebrity, Jesus' own attention will go to the 10 to 15 million children abandoned to the streets in Nigeria. Or is this only in northern Nigeria? Maybe more than this. The over 2 million public university students abandoned by the authorities. The many more millions abandoned to rural and urban slums in Lagos, in Abuja, and Port Harcourt, and so on. Terrible slums all over the place. The many victims of callous kidnappers and killer bandits, those struggling with mental illness as well as alcohol and drug addiction, who are unable to find help all over the place. Yes, Jesus' loving attention is directed especially to the marginalized minority groups in Nigeria who have suffered for long. The handicapped child abandoned by parents. The unwanted child in the womb threatened with abortion. The criminal suspect threatened with mob justice. The poor village woman accused of witchcraft. These are the people Jesus' attention will go to. The more disfigured a person is in the scheme of things for Jesus, the more despicable a person's condition is, the more a person is rejected by the rest of society, the more he or she attracts Jesus' gratuitous attention and love. Right? The more disfigured a person is, the more he attracts Jesus' gratuitous love. Now, Jesus' close affinity with the poor and the marginalized reveals something about God, reveals the face of Yahweh. Yahweh, who is known as what? Father of orphans, right? Defender of the widow and friend of the poor. Can we read that together? Father of orphans, defender of the widow, and friend of the poor. Yes. Anyone who wants to become great among you, Jesus says, must be your servant. And anyone who wants to be first among you must be slave to all. For the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and give his life as a ransom for many. This is everywhere in the gospel. So Mark chapter 10, verse 42 to 45, and you see it in Matthew chapter 20, verse 24 to 28, Luke chapter 9, verse 46 to 48. If anyone wishes to be a follower of mine, he must renounce himself. He must embrace his identity as human as humus, as dust, carry his cross and follow. In his teaching of humility, Jesus reverses all established norms, standards, and conventions. What we are used to is that it is the celebrity that is recognized, right? It is the powerful person that is recognized. It is the one coming with 20 cars or 100 cars, motorcade, that we recognize. But Jesus ignores our own and established a new one for us, gives us his own parameters. While the champions of this world urge people to go for it, to blow their own trumpet, to conquer their world, and to fight their way to the top, and be aggressive and be assertive. This is what we see on social media every day. This is what has poisoned our young people, which is why many young people today are colos. This is what has destroyed society. When the message you hear on TV, in billboards, on social media, and then unfortunately from parents too, when it is that of go for it, blow your trumpet, conquer your world, fight your way to the top, grab power, snatch, and run with it. When these are the messages you hear, be aggressive, be assertive. This is what dominates most of motivational speaking across the world, true or false? This is what dominates. So it's so completely against the message of Jesus Christ. But that is what is dominant. To the extent that many pastors and preachers have adopted it as their own message too. Because that's what people like. That's what people like to hear. And if you want to be a popular preacher, then you adopt those, and then people will follow you. But it is the wrong message. It's not a Christian message. I was speaking somewhere recently, and I said, the gospel of Christ is not a motivational speech. Right? It's not motivational speech. The gospel of Christ comforts the afflicted and afflicts the comfortable. That's not motivational. The gospel of Christ is one that if you hear, you either get angry or you begin to cry out of sadness. But you can't hear the gospel of Christ and just remain as you are. You are either so challenged that you begin to cry, or so challenged that you get angry and wish to pick stones against the preacher like they did in his time. The gospel of Christ is not one that you hear and you remain the same, if you really heard it. Jesus teaches that the greatest among you is the one who serves. So, while everyone is struggling for more wealth, so as to buy the latest cars, while everyone is struggling for more power in order to be in charge of others and control others, what we have lacked in this society is that we have lacked any good number of persons who desire power for service. I mean, we have people in this country whose life ambition is to rule. And Nigerians are being warned. We should all be warned. Don't vote anybody whose life ambition is to be president or to be governor or to be... Don't vote anyone whose life ambition is to rule. Vote people whose life ambition is to serve. I remember, I reported here how I went to a secondary school and I asked, what will you want to be? And one girl told me that he wants to be the first female president of Nigeria. I said, no, that's a wrong one. Then she began to cry. Robinson, you were there, right? Yeah, she began to cry. Why cry? She said that she desired to be the first female president of Nigeria. And Father George says that it is foul. I said to her, no. Desire to serve. You want to be perhaps the best servant of the interests of women in this country. And if in that process we see you serving, committing your life to service of the trafficked girls, of the trafficked women, of all the battered women in this country, you desire to do that. And in the process, we see that, oh, you are a wonderful person. Be our president. But don't desire to be president. It's honor you are looking for. Are you getting the point? It is honor you are looking for. Desire to serve, and if you serve so well that the people now say, oh, okay, you be our president. We have gotten it wrong by voting people whose ambition is to be president. That is why we are where we are. Jesus urges us to seek the lowest place. That's why I keep saying the message of Jesus is not attractive. If you see stadiums are full, auditoriums are full, and so on and so forth, and all kinds of noisy shouting for the gospel of Christ, I ask myself, is it really the gospel of Christ that is being preached? Because if it is the gospel of Christ, it's not so attractive, you know. Christian humility is today challenged by pride and arrogance, by materialism and consumerism. It's been challenged by vanity and vainglory, immodesty and showmanship. A lot of what goes on, even in many of our churches, is showmanship. By ignorance and presumption, by acute celebrity syndrome. All this challenge the gospel of Christ today. We live in a world in which wealth is all that matters, in which status is the key word, in which rank is of the essence, in which power is the ultimate value. In such a world, the poor and the weak, the blind and the lame, the widow and the orphan have no place. They will be crushed in such a world. Which is why the lot of the poor today is worse than the lot of the poor 100 years ago. True or false? The lot of the poor around us is worse than the lot of the poor 100 years ago. The kind of poverty I see in Port Harcourt, in Lagos, in Abuja, is worse than the poverty I ever saw in my village growing up. And that is because of the kind of value system we have. Yet, where Jesus is to be found is in the company of these poor people, the poor and the weak, the blind and the lame, the widow and the leper. Our world makes no room for a successful person who is frugal, humble and modest. Obama actually touched on this, isn't it? When he said it is difficult, when you become wise, you become proud. You see, our world is not teaching people who are successful to be humble. Our world is teaching people who are successful to blow their trumpet. That is why in this country you have people who say, we ask somebody, what is your name? He says, I am Dr. Mrs. Professor. No, Chief, begins. Hi, Chief Dr. Professor. And then, you're asking yourself, what's wrong? It just shows me the emptiness of people, you know. Just the emptiness of people. Because people who are full inside, they don't need all these titles. I told you how once upon a time, we called the mass intention sometimes. We were reading mass intention, saying that this person wants God to bless her. And we say it's Mrs. So, and the person quarreled seriously. Father, you left out my Dr. Mrs. I say, you mean God doesn't know you are Dr. Mrs.? So, even churches, unfortunately, Christian organizations and institutions, rich Christians and those occupying high positions, as well as even priests and pastors and evangelists, have often been sucked into the world of immodesty, the world of vanity, the world of vainglory. When a preacher will now be showing his wristwatch and the cost of the wristwatch as evidence of the fact that he is close to God. God. How we can get things completely upside down. He's showing his custom designed suit as evidence of his closeness to God. That if you are really close to Jesus, you should be ashamed of. That in a world where there's so much poverty, you are spending so much to have a timepiece or a suit or whatever. We have joined the rest of the world in competition for all the status symbols in our society. Big chieftaincy titles, big houses, flashy cars, designer watches, clothes and shoes, and private jets. Jesus' paradoxical teaching on humility can be summarized and follows. Number one, can you read? Do you want to find your life? Do you want to be first? Do you want to be greatest? Do you want the crown of glory? Do you want to be exalted? Let's go again. Do you want to find your life? Do you want to be first? Do you want to be the greatest? Do you want the crown of glory? And do you want to be exalted? Humility is, I think it's Tony who said something close to that, the most characteristic Christian virtue. It is the virtue that cuts across all elements of Christian life. It's the most characteristic Christian virtue. Humility is the mother of all virtues. It's the guardian of all virtues. It's the solid foundation of the virtuous life. No one lives a virtuous life without humility. Humility is the doorway to genuine Christian life. It is the pathway, the doorway, but also the pathway to true greatness. Humility is the first step to salvation. Dear Moody says, to begin the life of greatness, to increase in the life of greatness, to perfect the life of greatness. Yes, Tagore, the Indian poet, says, we come nearest to the great when we are great in humility. Sin came through the pride of Lucifer, as we were told earlier. But salvation came through the humility of Jesus. Can you see the distinction? Whereas pride constitutes a barrier between us and God and between us and our neighbor, what does humility do? Humility creates in us a capacity for the closest possible intimacy with God. So, nothing sets us so much out of the devil's reach as nothing puts us so much in the devil's pocket as good. On Ash Wednesday, as I said earlier, each year, we hear it drummed into our ears. Remember, man, that dust you are, and unto dust you shall return. This is the truth of who we really are. But we keep running away from that truth. I mean, when we buy millions of naira worth of coffin for the dead, what are we saying? We are saying that there is distinction under the ground between my rich relation and the poor people who die, who cannot afford those rich coffins. Me, I have never understood it. I've never understood how people spend millions to buy coffin. I've never understood. That's why it is in my will. And my sister is there. She knows that it is in my will that my coffin will be cut and nail. Cut and nail. Don't even waste polish. Because the thing is going to rot. It just doesn't make sense. With so many poor people needing money, you will spend 5 million, 10 million to buy coffin. Are you sick? It doesn't make sense. You are buying the coffin in order that it becomes what? It's going to get rotten. And it is meant to get rotten. It is meant to become one with the sand. It is meant to become fertilizer for plants. So why are you wasting money? It is still, I take that very seriously. That's part of the reason why it's in my will. I take it seriously because it is part of our running away from the truth of who we are. Humus, dust, dirt. It's running away from it. So we camouflage the truth, the bitter truth. It's bitter. It's bitter. It's a very bitter truth to know that my mother, whom I respect so much, is going to rot in the ground. No. So we pretend and buy. Anyway, my sisters, they knew. They knew that I won't agree to buy such millions of whatever. Because it just does not make sense. This is who we are. That's why I put the coffin there. Are you seeing the coffin? Aha. This one even has polish. Next. Can you read? Humility means truth. Which kind of truth? The truth of who we really are, poor, vulnerable, sinful creatures that we are crafted from dust and are destined to end up in. Let me tell your neighbor, you are destined to end up in dust. And it is from dust you came. So all this shakara will end up in dust. Humility, C.S. Lewis says, is not thinking less of ourselves, but thinking of ourselves less. Think more of God. Think more of your neighbor. Don't think too much of yourself. That's humility. So it is not thinking less of ourselves. It is thinking of ourselves less. Humility is a strange thing, oh. The moment you think you have got it, you have lost it. You go around and say, I'm a very humble man. I'm a very humble man. You have lost it. Jamboya says that he who is down, this is the real truth of humility. That if you are on the ground, you have no fear. But when you are on top, our Africans have a lot of proverbs on that, related to that, right? That the person that is on the tree, is the one that has his entrails exposed. So when you are on the ground, you are there. There's nowhere to go except up, isn't it? But when you are up, there is possibility of coming down. Humility is not a virtue we can attain by our own effort. Now, this is what I was looking forward to, Obama, to conclude what you are saying with. Rather, we develop humility as we constantly need before God in penitence. That is what was left in Obama's quandary, because he says you need a bit of humility, wisdom in order to have humility. But then when you become wise, there is the temptation to become proud. So what is the answer? The answer is the grace of God. It is with the grace of God that we can be wise and humble. It is with the grace of God that we recognize daily that we are only dust and we shall return to dust. If anyone would like to acquire humility, the first step is to realize that one is proud. So every day we go to God and say, heal me of my pride. Heal me of the vestiges of pride in me. So Jesus says, all who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted. Now let me read the poem I wrote when I was reflecting on my own pride and the need for God to give me the grace of humility. Several years ago I wrote this. This swollen head of mine, pride I call it, this swollen head of mine that swaggers in snobbery and is pampered with flattery will one day crash in the humiliation of truth unless it gives up the accustomed flirtation with vainglory and become a lover of poverty and a seeker of humility, from whose height no one falls any lower. He who is down needs fear no fall. Lord, make me seek to be humble, 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 humble. Lord, make me seek to be humble. Lord, make me seek to be gentle, 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 gentle. Lord, make me seek to be gentle. Lord, make me seek to be generous, 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 generous. Lord, make me seek to be generous. Now let's ask to be holy now. Lord, make me seek to be holy. 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 Lord, make me seek to be holy. Heavenly Father, we thank you, we praise you, glorify your holy name for your many blessings. Thank you for your message of today. Thank you for the message of the first reading, of the gospel of the second reading, calling us to embrace the wisdom that brings humility and the humility that nurtures wisdom. Lord, help us to know daily the truth of who we are. Terrible sinners that have been saved by grace. Dusts destined for dust. Help us to recognize that it is only by your grace that we are anything. That we may live the life of humility, constantly returning thanks to you and raising our brothers and sisters up so that our world may be a better place, that our country may be a better place through Christ our Lord.